As of November 2015, Japan has one nuclear power plant in operation. Prior to the earthquake and tsunami of March 2011, and the nuclear disasters that resulted from it, Japan had generated 30% of its electrical power from nuclear reactors and planned to increase that share to 40%. Nuclear energy was a national strategic priority in Japan, but there had been concern about the ability of Japan's nuclear plants to withstand seismic activity. The Kashiwazaki-Kariwa nuclear power plant was completely shut down for 21 months following an earthquake in 2007. The 2011 earthquake and tsunami caused the failure of cooling systems at the Fukushima I nuclear power plant on March 11 and Japan's first ever nuclear emergency was declared, which caused 140,000 residents within 20 kilometers of the plant to be evacuated. A comprehensive assessment by international experts on the health risks associated with the Fukushima I nuclear power plant disaster concluded in 2013 that, for the general population inside and outside of Japan, the predicted risks were low and no observable increases in cancer rates above baseline rates were anticipated. On May 6, 2011, Prime Minister Naoto Kan ordered the Homolka nuclear power plant be shut down as an earthquake of magnitude 8.0 or higher is likely to hit the area within the next 30 years. Problems in stabilizing the triple reactor meltdowns at Fukushima I nuclear plant hardened attitudes to nuclear power. As of June 2011, more than 80% of Japanese now said they were anti-nuclear and distrusted government information on radiation. As of October 2011, there have been electricity shortages, but Japan survived the summer without the extensive blackouts that had been predicted. An energy white paper, approved by the Japanese cabinet in October 2011, stated that public confidence in safety of nuclear power was greatly damaged by the Fukushima disaster, and called for a reduction in the national Euro unregistered trademark S reliance on nuclear power. All Japan's nuclear plants were closed, or their operations suspended for safety inspections. The last of Japan's 50 reactors went offline for maintenance on May 5, 2012, leaving Japan completely without nuclear-produced electrical power for the first time since 1970. Despite protests, on July 1, 2012 Unit 3 of the OEI nuclear power plant was restarted. In September 2013 OEI Units 3 and 4 went offline, making Japan again completely without nuclear-produced electrical power. On August 11, 2015, the Sendai nuclear power plant was brought back online. As of November 2015 it is the only nuclear power plant operating in Japan. History: in 1954, Japan budgeted 230 million yen for nuclear energy, marking the beginning of the program. The Atomic Energy Basic Law limited activities to only peaceful purposes. The first nuclear reactor in Japan was built by the UK's GEC and was commissioned in 1966. In the 1970s, the first light water reactors were built in cooperation with American companies. These plants were bought from U.S. vendors such as General Electric and Westinghouse with contractual work done by Japanese companies, who would later get a license themselves to build similar plant designs. Developments in nuclear power since that time have seen contributions from Japanese companies and research institutes on the same level as the other big users of nuclear power. Between the early 1970s and today, the Japanese government promoted the siting of nuclear power plants through a variety of policy instruments involving soft social control and financial incentives. By offering large subsidies and public works projects to rural communities and by using educational trips, junkets for local government officials, and op-eds written as news by pro-nuclear supporters, the central government won over the support of depopulating, hard-on-their-luck coastal towns and villages. Japan's nuclear industry was not hit as hard by the effects of the 3 Mile Island accident or the Chernobyl disaster as some other countries. Construction of new plants continued to be strong through the 1980s, 1990s, and up to the present day. While many new plants had been proposed, all were subsequently cancelled or never brought past initial planning. Cancelled plant orders include, the Maki nuclear power plant at Maki, Niigata cancelled in 2003, the Kushima nuclear power plant at Kushima, Miyazaki 1997, the Ashama nuclear power plant at Ashama, Euro 2000, the Hahoku nuclear power plant at Hahoku, Yamaguchi Euro 1994, the Suzhou nuclear power plant at Suzhou, Ishikawa Euro 2003. However, starting in the mid-1990s there were several nuclear-related accidents and cover-ups in Japan that eroded public perception of the industry, resulting in protests and resistance to new plants. These accidents included the Tokamura nuclear accident, the Miyama steam explosion, cover-ups after an accident at the Monju reactor, among others, more recently the Kaetsu offshore earthquake aftermath. While exact details may be in dispute, it is clear that the safety culture in Japan's nuclear industry has come under greater scrutiny. On April 18, 2007, Japan and the United States signed the United States-Japan Joint Nuclear Energy Action Plan, aimed at putting in place a framework for the joint research and development of nuclear energy technology. Each country will conduct research into fast reactor technology, fuel cycle technology, advanced computer simulation and modeling, small and medium reactors, safeguards and physical protection, and nuclear waste management. In March 2008, Tokyo Electric Power Company announced that the start of operation of 4 new nuclear power reactors would be postponed by 1 year due to the incorporation of new earthquake resistance assessments. Units 7 and 8 of the Fukushima Daiichi plant would now enter commercial operation in October 2014 and October 2015, respectively. Unit 1 of the Higashidari plant is now scheduled to begin operating in December 2015, while Unit 2 will start up in 2018 at the earliest. As of September 2008, Japanese ministries and agencies were seeking an increase in the 2009 budget by 6%. The total requested comes to 491.4 billion Japanese yen, and the focuses of research are development of the fast breeder reactor cycle, next-generation light water reactors, the ITER project, and seismic safety. A 2011 independent investigation in Japan has revealed a long history of nuclear power companies conspiring with governments to manipulate public opinion in favor of nuclear energy. One nuclear company even stacked public meetings with its own employees who posed as ordinary citizens to speak in support of nuclear power plants. An energy white paper, approved by the Japanese cabinet in October 2011, says public confidence in safety of nuclear power was greatly damaged by the Fukushima disaster, and calls for a reduction in the national Euro unregistered trademark S reliance on nuclear power. It also omits a section on nuclear power expansion that was in last year a Euro unregistered trademark S policy review. Nuclear Safety Commission Chairman Hayuki Maduron told a parliamentary inquiry in February 2012 that Japan's atomic safety rules are inferior to global standards and left the country unprepared for the Fukushima nuclear disaster last March. There were flaws in, and lax enforcement of, the safety rules governing Japanese nuclear power companies, and this included insufficient protection against tsunamis. As of March 27, 2012, Japan had only 1 out of 54 nuclear reactors operating. The Tomari 3, after the Kashiwazaki Kariwa 6 was shut down. The Tomari 3 was shut down for maintenance on May 5, leaving Japan with no nuclear-derived electricity for the first time since 1970, when the country's then only 2 reactors was taken offline 5 days for maintenance. On June 15, 2012, approval was given to restart OEI Units 3 and 4, which could take 6 weeks to bring them to full operation. On July 1, 2012, Unit 3 of the OEI nuclear power plant was restarted. This reactor can provide 1,180 MW of electricity. On July 21, 2012, Unit 4 was restarted, also 1,180 MW. The reactor was shut down again on September 14, 2013, again leaving Japan with no operating power reactors. Government figures in the 2014 annual report on energy show that Japan depended on imported fossil fuels for 88% of its electricity in fiscal year 2013, compared with 62% in fiscal 2010. Without significant nuclear power, the country was self-sufficient for just 6% of its energy demand in 2012, compared with 20% in 2010. the additional fuel costs to compensate for its nuclear reactors being idled was a 3.6 trillion yen. In parallel, domestic energy users have seen a 19.4% increase in their energy bills between 2010 and 2013, while industrial users have seen their costs rise 28.4% over the same period. The National Diet of Japan Fukushima Nuclear Accident Independent Investigation Commission is the first independent investigation commission by the National Diet in the 66-year history of Japan. Unregistered trademark S constitutional government. NAICC was established on December 8, 2011 with the mission to investigate the direct and indirect causes of the Fukushima nuclear accident. NAICC submitted its inquiry report to both houses on July 5, 2012. The 10-member commission compiled its report based on more than 1,167 interviews and 900 hours of hearings. It was a 6-month independent investigation, the first of its kind with wide-ranging subpoena powers in Japan's constitutional history, which held public hearings with former Prime Minister Naoto Kan and Tokyo Electric Power Company's former president Masataka Shimizu, who gave conflicting accounts of the disaster response. The commission chairman, Kiyoshi Kurokawa, declared with respect to the Fukushima nuclear incident, it was a profoundly man-made disaster that could and should have been foreseen and prevented. He added that the fundamental causes of the disaster were rooted in the ingrained conventions of Japanese culture. The report outlines errors and willful negligence at the plant before the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami on March 11, 2011 and a flawed response in the hours, days and weeks that followed. It also offers recommendations and encourages Japan's parliament to thoroughly debate and deliberate the suggestions. Japan's new energy plan, approved by the Liberal Democratic Party cabinet in April 2014, calls nuclear power the country's most important power source. Reversing a decision by the previous Democratic Party, the government will reopen nuclear plants, aiming for a realistic and balanced energy structure. In May 2014 the Fukui District Court blocked the restart of the OI reactors. In April 2015 courts blocked the restarting of 2 reactors at Takahama Nuclear Power Plant but permitted the restart of 2 reactors at Sendai Nuclear Power Plant. The government hopes that nuclear power will produce 20% of Japan unregistered trademark S electricity by 2030. As of June 2015, approval was being sought from the new Nuclear Regulatory Agency for 24 units to restart, of the 54 pre-Fukushima units. The units also have to be approved by the local prefecture authorities before restarting. In July 2015 fuel loading was completed at the Sendai 1 nuclear plant, with a planned start-up in 30 days. Japan unregistered trademark S Nuclear Regulatory Authority approved the restart of Ikuta 3. This reactor is the 5th to receive approval to restart. Seismicity. Japan has had a long history of earthquakes and seismic activity, and destructive earthquakes, often resulting in tsunamis, occur several times a century. Due to this, concern has been expressed about the particular risks of constructing and operating nuclear power plants in Japan. Amory Lovins has said, an earthquake and tsunami zone crowded with 127 million people is an unwise place for 54 reactors. To date, the most serious seismic-related accident has been the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster, following the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami. Professor Katsuhiko Ishibashi, one of the seismologists who have taken an active interest in the topic, coined the term Genpatsu Shinsai, from the Japanese words for nuclear power and quake disaster to express the potential worst-case catastrophe that could ensue. Dr. Kyumoji, former chair of the Japanese Coordinating Committee for Earthquake Prediction, has expressed similar concerns, stating in 2004 that the issue is a critical problem which can bring a catastrophe to Japan through a man-made disaster. Warnings from Kunihiko Shimazaki, a professor of seismology at the University of Tokyo, were also ignored. In 2004, as a member of an influential Cabinet Office Committee on Offshore Earthquakes, Mr. Shimazaki warned that Fukushima's coast was vulnerable to tsunamis more than twice as tall as the forecasts of as much as 5 meters put forth by regulators and Tokyo Electric. Minutes of the meeting on February 19, 2004, show that the government bureaucrats running the committee moved quickly to exclude his views from the committee's final report. He said the committee did not want to force Tokyo Electric to make expensive upgrades at the plant. Hidekatsu Yoshi, a member of the House of Representatives for Japanese Communist Party and an anti-nuclear campaigner, warned in March and October 2006 about the possibility of the severe damage that might be caused by a tsunami or earthquake. During a parliamentary committee in May 2010 he made similar claims, warning that the cooling systems of a Japanese nuclear plant could be destroyed by a landslide or earthquake. In response, Yoshinobu Terasaku, head of the Nuclear and Industrial Safety Agency, replied that the plants were so well designed that such a situation is practically impossible. Following damage at the Kashiwazaki-Kariwa nuclear power plant due to the 2007 Kaetsu offshore earthquake, Kiyumoji called for the immediate closure of the Hamaoka nuclear power plant, which was knowingly built close to the center of the expected Tokai earthquake. Katsuhiko Ishibashi previously claimed, in 2004, that Hamaoka was considered to be the most dangerous nuclear power plant in Japan. The International Atomic Energy Agency has also expressed concern. At a meeting of the G8's Nuclear Safety and Security Group, held in Tokyo in 2008, an IAEA expert warned that a strong earthquake with a magnitude above 7.0 could pose a serious problem for Japan's nuclear power stations. Before Fukushima, 14 lawsuits charging that risks had been ignored or hidden were filed in Japan, revealing a disturbing pattern in which operators underestimated or hid seismic dangers to avoid costly upgrades and keep operating. But all the lawsuits were unsuccessful. Underscoring the risks facing Japan, a 2012 Research Institute investigation has determined there is a 70% chance of a magnitude 7 earthquake striking the Tokyo metropolitan area within the next 4 years, and 98% over 30 years. The March 2011 earthquake was a magnitude 9. Design standards equals. Between 2005 and 2007, 3 Japanese nuclear power plants were shaken by earthquakes that far exceeded the maximum peak ground acceleration used in their design. The tsunami that followed the 2011 Tohoku earthquake, inundating the Fukushima nuclear power plant, was more than twice the design height, while the ground acceleration also slightly exceeded the design parameters. In 2006 a Japanese government subcommittee was charged with revising the national guidelines on the earthquake resistance of nuclear power plants, which had last been partially revised in 2001, resulting in the publication of a new seismic guide the 2006 Regulatory Guide for Reviewing Seismic Design of Nuclear Power Reactor Facilities. The subcommittee membership included Professor Ishibashi. However, his proposal that the standards for surveying active faults should be reviewed was rejected and he resigned at the final meeting, claiming that the review process was unscientific and the outcome rigged to suit the interests of the Japan Electric Association, which had 11 of its committee members on the 19-member government subcommittee. Ishibashi has subsequently claimed that, although the new guide brought in the most far-reaching changes since 1978, it was seriously flawed because it underestimated the design basis earthquake ground motion. He has also claimed that the enforcement system is a shambles and questioned the independence of the Nuclear Safety Commission after a senior Nuclear and Industrial Safety Agency official appeared to rule out a new review of the NSC Seismic Design Guide in 2007. Following publication of the new 2006 Seismic Guide, the Nuclear and Industrial Safety Agency, at the request of the Nuclear Safety Commission, required the design of all existing nuclear power plants to be re-evaluated. Geological surveys The standard of geological survey work in Japan is another area causing concern. In 2008 Taku Komatsubara, a geologist at the National Institute of Advanced Industrial Science and Technology alleged that the presence of active faults was deliberately ignored when surveys of potential new power plant sites were undertaken, a view supported by a former topographer. Takashi Nakata, a seismologist from the Hiroshima Institute of Technology, has made similar allegations, and suggests that conflicts of interest between the Japanese nuclear industry and the regulators contribute to the problem. A 2011 Natural Resources Defense Council report that evaluated the seismic hazard to reactors worldwide, as determined by the Global Seismic Hazard Assessment Program data, placed 35 of Japan's reactors in the group of 48 reactors worldwide in very high and high seismic hazard areas. Nuclear power plants. Following the Fukushima I nuclear accidents, Prime Minister Naoto Kan has announced that all 6 of the reactors at the Fukushima I nuclear power plant will be decommissioned. For a list of nuclear reactors in Japan, see List of nuclear reactors. On May 6, 2011, then Prime Minister Naoto Kan requested the plant be shut down as an earthquake of magnitude 8.0 or higher is estimated 87% likely to hit the area within the next 30 years. Kan wanted to avoid a possible repeat of the Fukushima nuclear disaster. On May 9, 2011, Chubu Electric decided to comply with the government request. In July 2011, a mayor in Shizuoka Prefecture and a group of residents filed a lawsuit seeking the decommissioning of the reactors at the Hamaoka nuclear power plant permanently. In April 2014, Reuters reported that Prime Minister Shinzo Abe favors restarting nuclear plants, but that its analysis suggests that only about 1/3 to 2/3 of reactors will be in a technical and economic position to restart. Nuclear accidents, in terms of consequences of radioactivity releases and core damage, the Fukushima I nuclear accidents in 2011 were the worst experienced by the industry in addition to ranking among the worst civilian nuclear accidents, though no fatalities were caused and no serious exposure of radiation to workers occurred. The Tokamura reprocessing plant fire in 1999 had 2 worker deaths, 1 more exposed to radiation levels above legal limits, and over 660 others received detectable radiation doses but within permissible levels, well below the threshold to affect human health. The Miyama nuclear power plant experienced a steam explosion in one of the turbine buildings in 2004 where 5 workers were killed and 6 injured. 2011 accidents equals. There have been many nuclear shutdowns, failures, and partial meltdowns which were triggered by the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami. Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster equals, according to the Federation of Electric Power Companies of Japan, by April 27 approximately 55% of the fuel in reactor Unit 1 had melted, along with 35% of the fuel in Unit 2 and 30% of the fuel in Unit 3. And overheated spent fuels in the storage pools of Units 3 and 4 probably were also damaged. The accident exceeds the 1979 Three Mile Island accident in seriousness, and is comparable to the 1986 Chernobyl disaster. The Economist reports that the Fukushima disaster is a bit like 3 Three Mile Islands in a row, with added damage in the spent fuel stores, and that there will be ongoing impacts. Years of cleanup will drag into decades. A permanent exclusion zone could end up stretching beyond the plant unregistered trademark S perimeter. Seriously exposed workers may be at increased risk of cancers for the rest of their lives. On March 24, 2011, Japanese officials announced that radioactive iodine-131 exceeding safety limits for infants had been detected at 18 water purification plants in Tokyo and 5 other prefectures. Officials said also that the fallout from the Daiichi plant is hindering search efforts for victims from the March 11 earthquake and tsunami. Problems in stabilizing the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant have hardened attitudes to nuclear power. As of June 2011, more than 80% of Japanese now say they are anti-nuclear and distrust government information on radiation. The ongoing Fukushima crisis may spell the end of nuclear power in Japan, as citizen opposition grows and local authorities refuse permission to restart reactors that have undergone safety checks. Local authorities are skeptical that sufficient safety measures have been taken and are reticent to give their permission now required by law to bring suspended nuclear reactors back online. 2 government advisors have said that Japan's safety review of nuclear reactors after the Fukushima disaster is based on faulty criteria and many people involved have conflicts of interest. Hiromitsu Ino, professor emeritus at the University of Tokyo, says the whole process being undertaken is exactly the same as that used previous to the Fukushima Daiichi accident, even though the accident showed all these guidelines and categories to be insufficient. In 2012, Former Prime Minister Naoto Kan was interviewed about the Fukushima nuclear disaster, and has said that at one point Japan faced a situation where there was a chance that people might not be able to live in the capital zone including Tokyo and would have to evacuate. He says he is haunted by the specter of an even bigger nuclear crisis forcing tens of millions of people to flee Tokyo and threatening the nation's existence. If things had reached that level, not only would the public have had to face hardships but Japan's very existence would have been in peril. That convinced Kan to declare the need for Japan to end its reliance on atomic power and promote renewable sources of energy such solar that have long taken a back seat in the resource-poor country's energy mix. Other accidents. Other accidents of note include, 1981 almost 300 workers were exposed to excessive levels of radiation after a fuel rod ruptured during repairs at the Tsuruga nuclear power plant. December 1995, the fast breeder Monju nuclear power plant sodium leak. State-run operator Donan was found to have concealed videotape footage that showed extensive damage to the reactor. March 1997, the Tokamura nuclear reprocessing plant fire and explosion, northeast of Tokyo. 37 workers were exposed to low doses of radiation. Donan later acknowledged it had initially suppressed information about the fire. 1999, a fuel loading system malfunctioned at a nuclear plant in the Fukui prefecture and set off an uncontrolled nuclear reaction and explosion. September 1999, the criticality accident at the Tokai fuel fabrication facility. Hundreds of people were exposed to radiation, 3 workers received doses above legal limits of whom 2 later died. 2000, 3 TEPCO executives were forced to quit after the company in 1989 ordered an employee to edit out footage showing cracks in nuclear plant steam pipes and video being submitted to regulators. August 2002, a widespread falsification scandal starting in that led to the shutdown of all Tokyo Electric Power Company unregistered trademark S-17 nuclear reactors. Tokyo Electric's officials had falsified inspection records and attempted to hide cracks in reactor vessel shrouds in 13 of his 17 units. 2002, 2 workers were exposed to a small amount of radiation and suffered minor burns during a fire at Onagawa nuclear power station in northern Japan. 2006, a small amount of radioactive steam was released at the Fukushima Daiichi plant and it escaped the compound. July 16, 2007, a severe earthquake hit the region where Tokyo Electric's Kashiwazaki Kaiwa nuclear power plant is located and radioactive water spilled into the Sea of Japan. As of March 2009, all of the reactors remain shut down for damage verification and repairs. The plant with 7 units was the largest single nuclear power station in the world. Nuclear waste disposal. Japanese policy is to reprocess its spent nuclear fuel. Originally spent fuel was reprocessed under contract in England and France, but then the Rokkasho reprocessing plant was built, with operations originally expected to commence in 2007. The policy to use recovered plutonium as mixed oxide reactor fuel was questioned on economic grounds, and in 2004 it was revealed the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry had covered up a 1994 report indicating reprocessing spent fuel would cost 4 times as much as burying it. In 2000, a specified Radioactive Waste Final Disposal Act called for creation of a new organization to manage high-level radioactive waste, and later that year the Nuclear Waste Management Organization of Japan was established under the jurisdiction of the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry. NUMO is responsible for selecting a permanent deep geological repository site, construction, operation and closure of the facility for waste emplacement by 2040. Site selection began in 2002 and application information was sent to 3,239 municipalities, but by 2006, no local government had volunteered to host the facility. Kachi Prefecture showed interest in 2007, but its mayor resigned due to local opposition. In December 2013 the government decided to identify suitable candidate areas before approaching municipalities. the head of the Science Council of Japan unregistered trademark expert panel has said Japan's seismic conditions makes it difficult to predict ground conditions over the necessary 100,000 years, so it will be impossible to convince the public of the safety of deep geological disposal. Nuclear regulatory bodies in Japan, Nuclear Regulation Authority a new nuclear safety agency, under the Environment Ministry, which was created on September 19, 2012. It replaced the Nuclear and Industrial Safety Agency and the Nuclear Safety Commission. Nuclear Safety Commission ASHA registered trademark Permila Y Section A1 Quarter the former Japanese regulatory body for the nuclear industry. Japanese Atomic Energy Commission ASHA Section A1 Quarter now operating as a commission of inquiry to the Japanese cabinet. This organization coordinates the entire nation's plans in the area of nuclear energy. Nuclear and Industrial Safety Agency ASHA registered trademark Permil AW Florinea registered trademark Permil unregistered trademark Center the NISA performs regulatory activities and was formed January 6, 2001, after a reorganization of governmental agencies. Nuclear power companies electric utilities running nuclear plants Japan is divided into a number of regions that each get electric service from their respective regional provider. All utilities hold a monopoly and are strictly regulated by the Japanese government. For more background information, see Energy in Japan. All regional utilities in Japan currently operate nuclear plants with the exception of the Okinawa Electric Power Company. They are also all members of the Federation of Electric Power Companies Industry Organization. The companies are listed below. Regional electric providers: Hokkaido Electric Power Company, or E-Micron EASH, Tohoku Electric Power Company, E+or, EASH, Tokyo Electric Power Company, E+or-ASH, Kabu Electric Power Company, a Florin 3 ASH, Hokuriku Electric Power Company, or unregistered trademark EASH, Kansai Electric Power Company, EASH. Kagoku Electric Power Company, a 1/2 EASH, Shikoku Electric Power Company, AA 1/2 EASH, Kyosha Electric Power Company, are to the first A EASH. Other companies with a stake in nuclear power: Japan Atomic Energy Agency, Zeta ASH CEC unregistered trademark copyright section, Japan Atomic Power Company, Zeta ASH unregistered trademark JAPC. Jointly owned by several Japan's major electric utilities, was created by special provisions from the Japanese government to be the first company in Japan to run a nuclear plant. Today it still operates two separate sites. Electric Power Development Company, EEC unregistered trademark. This company was created by a special law after the end of World War II. It operates a number of coal-fired, hydroelectric, and wind power plants. The Oma nuclear plant that is under construction will mark its entrance to the industry upon completion. Nuclear vendors and fuel cycle companies. Nuclear vendors provide fuel in its fabricated form, ready to be loaded in the reactor, nuclear services, and/or manage construction of new nuclear plants. The following is an incomplete list of companies based in Japan that provide such services. The companies listed here provide fuel or services for commercial light water plants, and in addition to this, JAEA has a small MOX fuel fabrication plant. Japan operates a robust nuclear fuel cycle. Nuclear Fuel Industries, Ayase Florini unregistered trademark Azeta. NFI operates nuclear fuel fabrication plants in both Kumamoto, Osaka and in Tokai, Ibaraki, fabricating 284 and 200 metric tons uranium per year. The Tokai site produces BWR, HTR, and ATR fuel while the Kumamoto site produces only PWR fuel. Japan Nuclear Fuel Limited, Zeta AIC Florin. The shareholders of JNFL are the Japanese utilities. JNFL plans to open a full-scale enrichment facility in Rokkasho, Omori with a capacity of 1.5 million SWR along with the MOX fuel fabrication facility. JNFL has also operated a nuclear fuel fabrication facility called Kuriyama Nuclear Fuel Plant in Yokosuka, Kanagawa as GNF, producing BWR fuel. Mitsubishi Heavy Industries/ATMI, a PERML E plus or minus EA Zeta ER Asha EO Florin. MHI operates a fuel manufacturing plant in Takai, Ibaraki, and contributes many heavy industry components to construction of new nuclear plants, and has recently designed its own APWR plant type. Fuel fabrication has been completely PWR fuel, though MHI sells components to BWRs as well. It was selected by the Japanese government to develop fast breeder reactor technology and formed Mitsubishi FBR Systems. MHI has also announced an alliance with ALll to form a new company called ATMI. Global Nuclear Fuel. GNF was formed as a joint venture with GE Nuclear Energy, Hitachi, and Toshiba on January 1, 2000. GE has since strengthened its relationship with Hitachi, forming a global nuclear alliance. GE Hitachi Nuclear Energy, Eta Gay Florin A Florin Gamma Florin 1/4 AA Florin AM Florin AW Florin Shower Florin 1/4. This company was formed July 1, 2007. Its next-generation reactor, the ESBWR, has made significant progress with U.S. regulators, and as of July 2007, has been submitted to English regulators as well for the generic design assessment process. Toshiba, E plus or minus Ashi Asha to the first to Florin A Florin CAER Asha E Florin. Toshiba has maintained a large nuclear business focused mostly on boiling water reactors. With the purchase of the American Westinghouse by $5.4 billion in 2006, which is focused mainly on pressurized water reactor technology, it increased the size of its nuclear business about twofold. Toshiba has plans to continue significant expansion in the next decade. Recyclable Fuel Storage Company. A company formed by TEPCO and Japan Atomic Power Company to build a spent nuclear fuel storage facility in Omori Prefecture. Nuclear research and professional organizations in Japan. Research organizations. These organizations are government-funded research organizations, though many of them have special status to give them power of administration separate from the Japanese government. Their origins date back to the Atomic Energy Basic Law, but they have been reorganized several times since their inception. Japan Atomic Energy Research Institute, Zeta AER ASHC PERML Euro. The original nuclear energy research organization established by the Japanese government under cooperation with U.S. partners. Atomic Fuel Corporation, ARC Florini unregistered trademark A. This organization was formed along with JARI under the Atomic Energy Basic Law and was later reorganized to be PNC. Power Reactor and Nuclear Fuel Development Corporation, ASHC PERML Florini C Florini unregistered trademark EC unregistered trademark E pound. This organization succeeded the AFC in 1967 in order to perform more direct construction of experimental nuclear plants, and was renamed JNC in 1998. Japan Nuclear Cycle Development Institute, C Florini unregistered trademark A Micro AA Florin C unregistered trademark E copyright U section. Was formed in 1998 as the direct successor to the PNC. This organization operated Lojo and Monju experimental and demonstration reactors. Japan Atomic Energy Agency, Zeta AER ASHC CEC unregistered trademark E copyright U section. This is the modern, currently operating primary nuclear research organization in Japan. It was formed by a merger of JARI and JNC in 2005. Academic professional organizations. Japan Atomic Industrial Forum Zeta AER ASHC FAA 1/4 is a non-profit organization, established in 1956 to promote the peaceful use of atomic energy. The Atomic Energy Society of Japan Zeta AER ASHA 1/4 is a major academic organization in Japan focusing on all forms of nuclear power. The Journal of Nuclear Science and Technology is the academic journal run by the AESJ. It publishes English and Japanese articles, though most submissions are from Japanese research institutes, universities, and companies. Japan Nuclear Technology Institute Zeta Ashash Euro EAA 1/4 was established by the nuclear power industry to support and lead that industry. Japan Electric Association Zeta A degree, AA 1/4 develops and publishes codes and guides for the Japanese nuclear power industry and is active in promoting nuclear power. Other proprietary organizations JCO. Established in 1978 as by Sumamoto Metal Mining Company. This company did work with uranium conversion and set up factories at the Tokaimura site. Later, it was held solely responsible for the Tokaimura nuclear accident. Anti-nuclear movement. Long one of the world Euro unregistered trademark's most committed promoters of civilian nuclear power, Japan's nuclear industry was not hit as hard by the effects of the 1979 Three Mile Island accident or the 1986 Chernobyl disaster as some other countries. Construction of new plants continued to be strong through the 1980s and into the 1990s. However, starting in the mid-1990s there were several nuclear-related accidents and cover-ups in Japan that eroded public perception of the industry, resulting in protests and resistance to new plants. These accidents included the Tokaimura nuclear accident, the Miyama steam explosion, cover-ups after accidents at the Monju reactor, and more recently the Kashiwazaki Kariwa nuclear power plant was completely shut down for 21 months following an earthquake in 2007. While exact details may be in dispute, it is clear that the safety culture in Japan's nuclear industry has come under greater scrutiny. The negative impact of the 2011 Fukushima nuclear disaster has changed attitudes in Japan. Political and energy experts described nothing short of a nationwide loss of faith, not only in Japan Euro unregistered trademark's once vaunted nuclear technology but also in the government, which many blame for allowing the accident to happen. 60,000 people marched in central Tokyo on September 19, 2011, chanting "Sayonara nuclear power," and waving banners, to call on Japan's government to abandon nuclear power, following the Fukushima disaster. Bishop of Osaka, Michael Goromatsura, has called on the solidarity of Christians worldwide to support this anti-nuclear campaign. In July 2012, 75,000 people gathered near in Tokyo for the capital Euro unregistered trademark's largest anti-nuclear event yet. Organizers and participants said such demonstrations signal a fundamental change in attitudes in a nation where relatively few have been willing to engage in political protests since the 1960s. Anti-nuclear groups include the Citizens Nuclear Information Center, Stop Rock Kasho, Hidanko, Sayonara Nuclear Power Plants, Women from Fukushima Against Nukes, and the Article 9 Group. People associated with the anti-nuclear movement include Jinsaburo Takagi, Hayuki Murakami, Kanzaburo Oe, Nobuto Hosaka, Mizuo Fukushima, Raiichi Sakamoto and Tetsunori Aida. See also: Energy in Japan, Nuclear Regulation Authority, Horinobi, Hokkaido Japan's non-nuclear policy, Japanese nuclear weapons program, Japanese nuclear incidents, nuclear energy policy, 3 non-nuclear principles, United States-Japan Joint Nuclear Energy Action Plan. Notes. References. Further reading: Bacon, Paul, and Christopher Hobson. Human Security in Japan's Triple Disaster, Responding to the 2011 Earthquake, Tsunami and Fukushima Nuclear Crisis, Dreiling, Michael. An Energy Industrial Complex in Post-Fukushima Japan, a Network Analysis of the Nuclear Power Industry, the State and the Media. 18 ISA World Congress of Sociology. Isakonth, 2014. Pham, Shundeng, ALll. Post-Fukushima Japan, The Continuing Nuclear Controversy. Energy Policy 68, 199-205. Jackson, Keith. Natural Disaster and Nuclear Crisis in Japan, Response and Recovery After Japan's 3/11 and After the Great East Japan Earthquake, Political and Policy Change in Post-Fukushima Japan. Asia Pacific Business Review, 1-9. Kelly, Dominic. U.S. Hegemony and the Origins of Japanese Nuclear Power, The Politics of Consent. New Political Economy 19.6 819-846. Kainfuchi, Etsuko. Nuclear Power for Good, Articulations in Japan's Nuclear Power Hegemony. Communication, Culture and Critique. Kingston, Jeff. ALL's Nuclear Renaissance, Energy Politics in Post-Euro 3.11 Japan. Critical Asian Studies 46.3 461-484. Len, Christopher, and Victor Nian. Nuclear versus Natural Gas, An Assessment on the Drivers Influencing Japan's Energy Future. Energy Prostia 61, 194-197. Nian, Victor, and S.K. Chu. The State of Nuclear Power 2 Years After Fukushima The ASEAN Perspective. Applied Energy 136, 838-848. Zhang, Qi, and Benjamin C. McClellan. Review of Japan's power generation scenarios in light of the Fukushima nuclear accident. International Journal of Energy Research 38.5 539-550. External links, Nuclear Power in Japan on the World Nuclear Association website.